Your hippocampus has been quietly shrinking for the last decade. That's the part of your brain that makes memories, keeps your emotions steady, and tells your stress system when it's finally safe to switch off. When it shrinks, you forget more. You stay wound up longer after things resolve. The tired follows you even on the days when nothing is actually hard. This isn't aging. It's a stress hormone that stopped resetting. Solomon had one weekly rule that stops it. We stopped doing it. Here's what that's been costing you, and what getting it back looks like. What I want to show you is why that tired feeling, the kind that sleep doesn't seem to fix, has a specific biological cause, and why Solomon's one weekly rule contains exactly the 3 things your body needs to clear it. By the end, you'll have one concrete change you can make this week that starts the process. Stage 1. The paradox. There's a specific kind of tired that doesn't add up. Your life is calmer than it's been in years. The acute pressure, the young kids, the grinding career years, the financial anxiety, a lot of that has eased. You're not in crisis mode. Nothing is urgently on fire, and you're still exhausted. Not the tired that comes from a genuinely hard day and clears after a good night's sleep. Something flatter than that. A low-grade depletion that's just always there, in the background. You've adjusted to it the way you adjust to a persistent noise you can't find the source of. Most people call this getting older and accept it, but that's not what it is. There are 2 completely different types of exhaustion. The first is acute. Something stressful happens, your body mobilizes, the thing passes, you recover. That cycle is healthy. Your body was built for it. The second type is what happens when the stressors never fully stop, the recovery never arrives, and over years, the system stops being able to return to baseline on its own. That second type isn't tiredness. It's a stress system that's stuck in the on position, and it has a measurable physical consequence inside your brain. Stage 2. What chronic cortisol does. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone. It's not the enemy. In the short term, it's essential. When you're under threat, cortisol sharpens your focus, mobilizes your energy, and keeps you alert and reactive, and suppresses inflammation so your body can deal with the immediate problem first and heal afterward. The issue isn't cortisol. The issue is cortisol that never comes back down. In the mid-1980s, researchers Robert Sapolsky, Louis Cray, and Bruce McEwen published findings that changed how scientists understand stress and aging. What they found was that prolonged exposure to stress hormones reduces the number of neurons in the hippocampus, that small curved structure deep in the brain that handles your memory, your emotional regulation, and your ability to calm down after a threat has passed. In plain terms, chronic stress physically shrinks the part of your brain responsible for remembering things, managing your reactions, and switching off the alarm when the danger is over. Later research confirmed this in humans. A 1998 study in Nature Neuroscience found that cortisol levels during human aging directly predict how fast the hippocampus shrinks and how quickly memory deteriorates alongside it. Now, here's what this actually means for your daily life. The moments where a name just won't come. Walking into a room and having no idea why. Conversations from last week that are already blurry. That's not random forgetfulness. That's consistent with what chronic cortisol exposure does to the one structure your brain uses to form and retrieve memories. The emotional reactivity, feeling more irritable than the situation warrants, taking longer to shake something off, carrying a low-level tension even when nothing specific is wrong. Same structure. Because the hippocampus doesn't just manage memory, it regulates how intensely you respond to stress and how quickly you come back down from it. And here's the part that compounds the problem. The cortisol damages the thing that's supposed to stop the cortisol. The cycle feeds itself, and it gets worse after 40. Stage 3. Why it never resets after 40. Your stress system was designed to work in cycles. Something stressful happens, cortisol rises. Your body's stress command center detects the elevated level and sends a signal. Stand down. Cortisol drops, recovery happens. But chronic stress erodes that sensitivity over time. Think of it like a smoke detector that's been going off so often that you've started ignoring it. The signal still fires. Your body just stops responding as quickly or as completely. Cortisol stays elevated. The recovery that's supposed to happen doesn't fully arrive. After 40, this gets measurably worse. Research found that as we get older, the daily pattern of cortisol flattens out in a specific way. The morning peak, the natural high that's supposed to get you going, starts to blunt. But the evening levels, which should drop close to zero by nighttime, stay elevated instead. Nighttime is when your body does the work it can't do during the day, consolidating memories, repairing tissue, regulating the immune system. All of that requires your stress system to be genuinely, completely off. If your evening cortisol is still elevated, your body runs in a low idle all night. You sleep, but the repair doesn't happen the way it's supposed to. That's the tired that sleep doesn't fix. You're not broken, and you're not lazy. Your stress system has been stuck in the on position for so long, it no longer knows how to fully switch off. And every morning you wake up, starting from a lower baseline than the morning before. Stage 4. Solomon's observation. Here's where this gets interesting. Solomon, who managed an empire, oversaw tens of thousands of workers, built a structure that took 7 years to complete, and accumulated more documented wealth than any individual in the ancient record, spent the latter part of his life writing one of the most precise diagnoses of chronic exhaustion ever recorded. He wasn't writing as a theologian. He was writing from experience. Ecclesiastes 5:12, "The sleep of the laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich permits him no sleep." He had noticed something specific. The person who works with their body and stops sleeps soundly. The person who has accumulated everything, whose mind is always managing, always tracking, always weighing, cannot sleep. Ecclesiastes 4:6, "Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind." This isn't a moral point about ambition. It's an operational observation. At some level of accumulation without rest, you're producing less than the effort costs. Solomon had watched this play out across thousands of people in his court, and he had lived it himself. His prescription, after cataloging every version of what endless striving produces, was not a better routine, not a morning protocol, not more discipline. It was one rule, built into the structure of every week: stop 1 full day every 7. Before we get into exactly how that works, and why the specific structure of the Sabbath maps to the 3 mechanisms science now uses to reset a chronically elevated stress system, subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me, when's the last time you had a full day where you genuinely switched off? I read every one. Then, let's get into the solution. Stage 5. Why the Sabbath works. The Sabbath is not primarily a religious observance. At the biological level, it's a precise 3-part reset for a stress system that's been running too long without a shutdown. Each of the 3 mechanisms is independent. Each one lowers cortisol through a completely different pathway. All 3 happen to be built into the same 1-day practice. Mechanism 1. Complete cessation. Your body has 2 branches to its nervous system. One runs the stress response. It speeds things up, raises cortisol, keeps you alert and reactive. The other does the opposite. It slows the heart rate, drops cortisol, and activates the repair processes that can only run when the threat response is off. It only activates fully under one condition: real disengagement, not entertainment, not relaxation with one eye on your inbox, actual cessation of effort and monitoring. The Sabbath command is not "take it easy" or work less. It's categorical. No work. That specificity matters because the nervous system reads mostly off as still on. Mechanism 2. Communal gathering. When your body perceives safety, specifically safety in the presence of people it trusts, it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin and cortisol are counter-regulatory. When one rises, the other falls. Social connection in a perceived safety context measurably suppresses cortisol. Peer-reviewed research has confirmed this relationship. The Sabbath in ancient Israel was described in Leviticus 23 as a holy convocation, a sacred assembly, not solitary rest. Mechanism 3. Expressed gratitude. Research from UC Davis found that people who practice regular, structured gratitude show approximately 23% lower cortisol levels. The mechanism is measurable. Gratitude shifts neural activity away from the amygdala, the threat detection center, toward the prefrontal cortex, which activates the calming branch of the nervous system. There's a critical word in the research: expressed. Sabbath worship, psalms spoken aloud, specific thanks offered, praise expressed, is not passive. In 2025, a study published in the Journal of Pastoral Psychology measured this directly. Researchers examined 12-hour overnight cortisol in 285 Seventh-day Adventists, measured before and after Sabbath. Post-Sabbath cortisol levels were measurably lower. 3,000 years after Solomon built the rule into his week, peer-reviewed research confirmed it lowers cortisol through the exact 3 mechanisms his practice always contained. The modern weekend does not do any of this. Saturday and Sunday are typically filled with tasks deferred from the week, passive entertainment, errands, and the constant background noise of a phone that's never fully away. There is no cessation, just a shift to different activity. Less in-person community than a normal workday. No structured expression of gratitude. None of the 3 mechanisms fire. So the stress system never receives the reset signal. The cortisol wave continues week after week. The hippocampus keeps accumulating cortisol exposure. And on Sunday night, before the new week has even started, you're already running low. Solomon's rule doesn't require religion. It requires the 3 mechanisms. Here's what that looks like practically. The minimum viable version, starting this week. First, everything work-related goes off. Phone away, laptop closed, no just checking. The nervous system needs categorical off, not reduced activity. Second, be with one person, in person. Not a call, not a text thread. Physically present with someone you feel safe around. Third, say one specific thing out loud that you're grateful for. Not abstract, something from this week. Named, spoken, specific. That's the minimum viable Sabbath reset. 3 things, 1 afternoon. Solomon wasn't prescribing a religious ritual when he built this into the structure of every week. He was describing maintenance. A system that runs without a shutdown window eventually breaks down. He built the shutdown into the schedule. The research confirms it lowers cortisol. The hippocampus can recover volume when the chronic exposure eases. That's been documented too. The tired that sleep doesn't fix has a cause. And it has a solution that's been sitting in plain sight for 3,000 years.